I'm joined here today by the one and only Derek Brunson, North Carolina's own, Wilmington's own. Thanks so much for joining me, man. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well, man. Thank you for asking. It's not often I get to have a fellow North Carolina guy on the show. I feel like I have to, go ahead and sort of put that forward a little bit, just, North Carolina connection. But where are you currently, man? Are you in Wilmington?
Yeah, I'm currently in Wilmington right now, just hanging out at my gym. Just finished up a little bit of wrestling class. I instructed today. So, yeah, just finished up with that.
How's everything going with, I assume your kids started back up school. I know everybody's doing Zoom. How's that going for you?
It's good, It's funny, this is the first time I hear kids say they'd rather be in school, because it's kind of boring just logging in and have to, check into each class. I go upstairs this morning, my daughter's, falling asleep. I'm like, what are you doing? You're supposed to be in your Zoom class. She's like, she already got it done. But, yeah, it's an adjustment, but I think we'll be out of this phase pretty soon here.
Now, how old are your kids? Are they at an age where sitting in front of a computer is fine, or are they young where they got to start running around?
Yeah, my daughters are 12 and 13, so they're pretty mature, so they're pretty good about getting their stuff done.
That sounds good, man. For you as a parent, how is that though? Do you have to be a lot involved in it, or just kind of at first?
Yeah, no, I just have to make sure, the overseer, they know how to log in, they know how to use the computers. They've been doing that for years. They know they're supposed to be doing their work, so it's just making sure I'm just there if they need help with it, and also just checking over to make sure that they done all their assignments.
That sounds good, man. Listen, before we get into the fight stuff, the first thing we found out is, in MMA, there's a lot of mystical beasts, right? Like sea-level Kane, things like that. We got a new one, and it's a blonde-haired Brunson. Is there something to this new mythical creature we got in MMA? What's going on with the blonde-haired Brunson?
I just want to switch it up, man. I got bored doing quarantine COVID time. So I want to switch it up, try something new. So this was what I came up with, and just rocking it out.
I assume you bleach it, right?
Yeah, just bleached it.
Yeah, are you scared at all? Because I've heard some guys, they bleach it and then their hair falls out and stuff like that. Were you scared about bleaching it?
I don't have any hair, so it don't really matter. Yeah. So what? Yeah, my scalp fall off,
Yeah.
But nah, I don't have much hair, so it's all good.
For sure, man. Before we get into this fight with Edmen, obviously it's a big one. We had that Raleigh card. I think it was back in January. I was surprised we didn't see you on there. What's going on, man? Why didn't we see you on that card?
I don't think, I've been ranked in the top 10 for the last, 5-6 years. So I'm going to have to fight somebody ranked. And it was just nobody available at the time that made sense for the UFC. I think they were trying to look at me and Edmen on that card. So it just never happened. And then they scheduled it for later. So that was why I didn't get on the Raleigh card.
For sure. And a good thing you did get on this card, though, because obviously you got to fight Edmen. How was it taking this fight, though? Because it seemed like the narrative a lot was, Edmen's going to use you as a stepping stone. All that stuff that you're used to hearing as a veteran. Did that put a chip on your shoulder heading into this fight?
Oh, yeah. I'm a veteran, and up in my age, I'm not the youngest guy in the division, but I'm no stepping stone, and I still have goals of getting title fights and holding the title. So my motivation is still high to go out here and win these high-level fights. So, yeah, I definitely had a chip on my shoulder. I went out here with something to prove. I put in a tough training camp, and I was really focused on picking up the win so I can keep moving forward.
And if there's one thing during the fight, obviously it was an amazing performance. I don't have to tell you that. But one thing we saw a lot was whenever you grabbed him, it looked like there really was a big strength advantage. Did you feel that whenever you grabbed him that you could sort of, kind of do whatever you wanted with him, the strength was on your side?
It's funny. Every fight I've been in my whole career, I've always felt that whenever I grab someone, even when I fought Romero, he's known as a powerhouse. I felt my strength was, an advantage in that fight, and I definitely felt like I had the strength advantage. So yeah, every fight I've been in, I've had a strength advantage. So it was no different from the previous fights into this fight. It's just, get to my positions, get to my spots, and just doing what I do.
And so what was the focus on during training camp? Because it seemed like, the big narrative, right, is that, he's going to have one good round and then the fighter has to be able to, in the later rounds, take advantage or something like that. Was that something you guys focused on, or was that just kind of like a narrative that was just going on out there?
Yeah, just a narrative that was going on out there. It's just our focus is just getting better each fight and putting together good fights. And however the fight go, kind of measuring it and being able to make those adjustments. Everybody's going to present a different problem. Everybody's going to have different stylistically stylistically, they're going to be different. But our goal is to be able to identify it and just keep chipping away and pick up the win.
Obviously, the big talk after the fight was just how good you looked. I mean, you looked so well-rounded. People mentioned how great your striking looked. I mean, how did you look back at that performance? Ultimately, were you happy with the way you looked?
Yeah, it was solid. You know, I look at things in the win, and I think like I could have been better in this spot. With the whole COVID thing, my strength and conditioning program wasn't as best as it could be. My trainer was out the whole time due to the COVID thing, so we can add to that. You know, just being sharper in positions. It's a lot of things I looked at the fight and broke down like, okay, we can better this. So I know that we still have a lot of things we can improve on, and I'm still improving.
And so did you do most of your training camp down in Florida, or did you do a little bit of it in your gym in Wilmington?
So I'm always here at my gym in Wilmington, but whenever, like 4 or 5 weeks before a fight, I go out to Florida and just stay out there the whole time. So I was out in Florida for 4 weeks, and then a week to the fight. So I was away from home for 5 weeks, but I got a 4-week training camp down in Florida.
And so the big talk with you guys' camp down in Florida was that, Anthony Rumble Johnson, we found out he's going to be coming back. I assume he's going to be looking at guys like you as a sparring partner. What do you think about a guy like Anthony Johnson? Because, we've heard some sparring stories. He could knock out a horse. He's, hurting people without meaning to. Like, what's the thoughts on sparring with a guy like that?
Now, a Rumble doesn't hurt me because when I spar him, I keep my hands tucked in tight right by my head. And it's good to have those type of reminders in training. We moved around a lot leading up into this fight, and whenever you got a guy like that has heavy power that can knock you out at the blink of an eye, is that you have to do things a little bit better. So you can't be out here loose with your hands down, running in with your chin down. You got to be tight, with your chin down and making good moves. So that's been an adjustment that the Florida camp at Sanford MMA and Henry Hoof and the guys helped me with this. We got a lot of sparring partners, a lot of good bodies. So these guys are really they've been under Henry for a long time. They have very good fundamental and elite kickboxing. So you have to be extra tight and not make a lot of mistakes, even in training. So it helps prepare you for that fight.
So we know for you as a fighter, whenever you head into a fight, obviously a lot of narratives are most of them are created by the media. For someone like yourself, where you weren't necessarily in a good spot with the way the media was talking about you, did you have any sort of, I don't want to say anger, but sort of like resentment a little bit towards the way people were talking about you heading into this fight? Like, did any of that stuff bother you at all?
No, it didn't bother me. I didn't see much media leading up until the fight. I try to stay away from it. I do my interviews. I kind of post on social media and I get off, and I really just prepare and focus on myself and just do other things so I can just make sure that I'm giving myself the best possible preparation leading up to the fight, and I'm not thinking about opinions or what people feel about the fight. So that was mainly what I was focused on, just worried about myself.
And coming back to this fight against Edmen, obviously it seemed like you kind of got 2 knockouts, right? Like you got him at the end of the second, and everybody kind of knew going into that third, like it's whenever Derek wants it. For you as a fighter, how do you sort of look at that situation? Like you look at a young guy like that, does it kind of bother you that you have to continue going into that third? Like what's kind of your opinion on stuff like that?
It's on Edmen that the fight didn't end in the second. Like imagine if a guy stays there for extra 3 seconds, 2 seconds, feeling sorry for themselves. The fight is over.
Right.
It was tough for Herb to start the fight because he wanted to, but then Edmen kind of just rolled over and got back up. And you've seen guys get knocked silly right before, and then they stumble back. They get hit after the bell. They get stumbled, and they fall down and stumble back to their corner, and the fight continues. So it was one of those things where Edmen did everything he needed to do to stay in the fight. I was just I was looking, and then all of a sudden he rolls over. I'm like, okay, well, I was hoping the fight would be stopped. Felt I earned it in that spot, but if it didn't, I was just ready to go back in the third. And my corner was like, hey man, let's finish this fight off properly. And the corner, I think Edmen should have continued. I think the corner should allow him to continue. Imagine if I would have, if you're a fighter, see, a lot of media, they speculate on things, but they never actually been fighters or been in that spot. But if I would have allowed him 30, 45 seconds to regain himself, and if I wouldn't have came out and really tried to finish the fight, he would have then got into the mode to where this is a very close fight. I could have won the first. He won the second. Whoever wins the third won the fight. He could have chipped away, and his whole thing was, I want to be the youngest champion. So if he can regain his composure a little bit, then he's going to make a strong push at the fight, you know? So I think everything happened proper as far as Herb was officiating, as far as the corner. I mean, if I was a coach, I'm going to try to push my fighter, and it's a fight. Sometimes people get hit harder in training than they get hit in the fight. So you want to keep pushing. You don't want to just step in. You know, the ref's job is to step in and stop the fight, and Herb stopped it ASAP whenever he saw him in danger in the third.
And so the big thing now, you're training with Henry Hooft, and he has a very unique style of coaching fighters where we see him in the corner and he's pretty much screaming at you. How do you deal with that style? So, fighters are different. Some guys need to be encouraged. They told they win rounds and they lose them. How do you sort of deal with his style? Because he's very unique in the way he does things.
Yeah, he's straightforward. He's a matter of fact guy, and that's what you need. You know, you don't need someone. You need somebody giving you great instructions, which he does. You need someone tell you, exactly where you're at in the fight. You don't need someone telling you, oh, I think it's 1-1 when you're probably down 2-0, and the other person, you probably need to finish there. You don't need someone that's just gonna tell you what you want to hear. You need some truth.
And so who's next for you at this point? Like, what did this do for your career in the division? Because I feel like we went from a point where people were they're trying to give you these young guys, and now we're talking top 5. Like, you're even in talks for the title. What did this win do for your career?
Yeah, it was a good win for forward momentum. And, yeah, I'm looking at somebody in that top 4. The perfect matchup to make is the Hermansson fight. He didn't fight too long ago. I just fought with both on the right schedule. I messed up my thumb a little bit, so we're recovering that a little bit. But I think maybe November, December makes sense. I wish my thumb was a little bit healthier because I was so open for Cannonier, Whitaker. If one of those guys got injured, to step in and fight one of those guys. So it's so many things I'm looking forward to. And even a guy like Till with a huge name, I'll be interested in that fight also.
And Jack Hermansson, it's interesting you mentioned him because I was on a podcast and they were like, who do you think should be next for Derek? One of the things I was saying is that the crazy fact about you, I think, if this is accurate, have you never been taken down in the UFC?
Hey, that's it. I'm pretty sure that's the scare. I've never been taken down in an MMA fight, period.
Yeah.
So, and Hermansson's a big takedown guy. So it's a very good class, and I'm pretty sure that's one of the things that camp is, he's not really liking the matchup. Like, no, he's not scared, but I mean, if there's a matchup, a guy's making improvements, starting to look good at the right time, never been taken down in a fight, and you're a takedown, and getting takedowns is one of your strengths, that I don't see people liking that matchup too much.
It's funny because that's what I was saying. I was like, if he's never been taken down, and Jack's thing is surprising guys on the ground, like, so someone like yourself, you must be salivating at that matchup because you're comfortable on the ground because you're not going to go there unless you feel like it. It's kind of up to you on the feet to sort of figure out where exactly Jack is, because I feel like we don't see him too often on the feet.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like the perfect matchup for the UFC to make. I've never been taken down. He loves to get it to the ground. So yeah, it turns into a strategic. I'm getting the takedowns.
Okay, let me see. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
There we go. Kind of one of the last topics I want to touch on, someone that you've trained with in the past. Jon Jones recently did this whole thing where he sort of retired. Then we found out he's going to heavyweight. What did you think of all that? Because I assume you know Jon a lot better than most people do.
Yeah, I do. Me and Jon used to hang out every single day about 7-8 years ago. Like we were real close. And yeah, Jon's a super talent. I think it's a perfect move for him. I'm interested to see him match up with some of the guys. I like him in a lot of those fights, to be a winner. And I heard Dana White say something about he's not going to get the instant title shot. That makes sense. Go fight somebody up there and then, let Francis and Stipe fight and then get the winner of that fight if he's able to win his debut for sure.
How do you think he looks size-wise? Because I think we see all the pictures. Everybody jokes about, his skinny legs and all that stuff. But as someone who's, him, how is he size-wise? You think he'd be a good size at heavyweight? I know obviously he's 6'4".
Yeah, he'll be a good size at heavyweight. The skinny legs don't matter. He can really put on some weight and work on the legs. And besides, he got quick kicks, and he has a very high IQ when it comes to fighting. So if a heavyweight kicks his legs, he probably check it like 2 times before they're able to kick him, and come back with a kick or something. So Jon has a high IQ. I think he'll make the adjustment just fine.
All right, and normally to end the interviews, I usually ask like, who's next? When are you going to fight? But you gave us all that information. So I want to finish with this. You mentioned you're 36. Obviously, you're in a very exciting point in your career. What's your goal before your career ends? Like, realistically, how do you sort of envision sort of the rest of your career at this point?
The goal is to ultimately get that title shot. I've been in the game for a while. I had some big wins. I've had some for all the top guys, and I've never gotten that title shot yet. I felt like if I would have mixed my schedule up a little bit better, I would have easily got it. Some guys jump around and, get their title shot or pick their fights. I just went in there and took the fights with everybody. So to definitely get that title shot and definitely hold the title, and then I can ride off and get to phase 2 of my life.
All right, well, there we go. We heard it from the man himself. Thank you so much for the time, Derek. I really appreciate it.